Well, good morning, brothers and sisters. It's the first day of a new month. I hope you are looking forward to what God's going to do in your life as you grow in Jesus this month. In our Bible reading plan here at First Baptist Church, we are in the book of Proverbs, and today is chapter 4. Hope you've already read this chapter and written in your journal what God has said to you. And be sure to drop down there in the comments somewhere and let me know where you're watching the video or listening to the podcast from, or share with us what God has said to you. Which of these verses, which of these Proverbs in chapter 4 stood out to you and spoke to your heart in some way today? Share that with me, and I look forward to hearing from you. My summary of chapter 4, after I read through it and prayed about it, was that he teaches in this chapter that the path I choose determines the course of my life. The path I choose determines the course of my life, and therefore I need to be very intentional, very determined, intentional to choose the right path and determined to stay on the right path. Because in this chapter he talks about two paths you can follow in life, and they lead to very different outcomes. The first is the path of the wicked, those who don't follow the wisdom and the truth of God. Look with me at verses 14 and 15. He says, "Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not proceed in the way of evil men. Avoid it." Don't just... He doesn't say just don't go there. He says stay away from it. Don't even get near the entrance. Avoid it, and do not pass by it. Turn away from it and pass on. Just keep right on going. And then look at verse 19. He says, "The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know over what they stumble." That when you don't follow the wisdom of God, it's as though you are stumbling in the darkness, and sometimes you don't even realize the damage you're doing to your own life. So he says, don't follow the path that the culture sets out, the path that worldly philosophy set out, that famous people and celebrities set out. I mean, follow the path of wisdom, follow the path of God. And then the second path is the path of wisdom, God's truth. Look at verses 5 and 6. He says, "Acquire wisdom, acquire understanding. Do not forget, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will guard you. Love her, and she will watch over you." And then drop down and look at verses 11 and 12. He says, "I have directed you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in the upright paths. When you walk, your steps will not be impeded, and if you run, you will not stumble." You're not going to trip yourself up. Somebody else may try to, but you are not going to trip yourself up when you follow wisdom and God's truth, when you choose that as the path of your life. And we just need to stick with it. Once you choose God's path, stay with it. Jesus said, nobody having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. So once you choose the right path, stick with it. Look at verses 25 and 26. He said, let your eyes look directly ahead, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Watch the path of your feet, and all your ways will be established. You see, if you're trying to live for God and follow His path, but you're always looking around at the world and looking around at the culture and looking around at this person and looking around at that thing, you're going to stumble. You're going to trip. Keep your eyes straight ahead. Make sure you see where your feet are landing. Keep moving forward on the path of God's wisdom, the path of God's truth, the path of righteousness, and you will not trip yourself up. Like we said yesterday, sometimes we are our own worst enemies, bringing pain into our lives. So God doesn't want you to do that. Now, one more word about wisdom here. He talks about loving her, and in verse 8, prize her. Prize her. Again, as I said yesterday, he personifies wisdom as a woman. And so he says, prize her, prize wisdom, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. Like I love hugging my wife. He says you need to love hugging wisdom. You need to love wisdom. You need to prize wisdom. And if you do, wow, she's going to bless you and keep you from making a mess of your own life. And you need to also let wisdom not just affect your mind, but also your heart and your emotions. Look at verse 21. He says, do not let them, talking about God's words, wisdom, do not let them depart from your sight. Keep them in the midst of your heart. Now look at verse 23. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. Have you ever seen someone get so emotional they did something stupid? That's why you need to be wise, not just in your head, but in your heart, not just with your thinking, but in your emotions. If you're constantly reacting out of human emotions, fleshly emotions, you're going to make more unwise decisions. You need to let God's wisdom, God's truth shape your emotions so that you can control them and react wisely. Don't wander aimlessly through life. You'll wake up one day and wonder, where have the years gone and why did I do it that way? Why did I waste those opportunities, waste those years? Why did I make all those decisions that weren't the better decisions? Be intentional, whether you're a 12-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 51-year-old, or a 70-year-old person. Wherever you're at in life, be intentional that from this day forward, you choose to walk and live and feel on the basis of God's wisdom and God's truth, and not allowing all the other things of this world to influence you. Your life will be so much better if you do that. That's the word for today from Proverbs 4. Hey, look forward to being with you tomorrow as we look at Proverbs 5. Go ahead and read it ahead of time. I'll see you tomorrow.